Hi, welcome to episode 248 of your favorite podcast, a couple of things, a podcast about things. And today we're going to talk about something. Listen and you'll find out. Okay, so after spending so much time trying to figure out what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to just talk about something that I talked about in conversation with a friend earlier today. We're talking about food and food cultures and all of those things. And I was talking about how, like, something that I've noticed is how similar, even though there are a lot of differences in a lot of like food cultures, there are actually quite a lot of similarities in how different cultures have some food. So, for example, if you think about the Nigerian meat pie, which is different from Jamaican meat pie, which is also different from empanadas, but they're all kind of technically the same thing because it's meat in a puff pastry wrap shaped in that particular manner. But then if you extend it now, there are other kinds of meats within a puff pastry thing, kind of, or something else that is not puff pastry. So think shepherd's pie, which is also a pie. Basically, you can make shepherd's pie into a meat pie type thing if you want. And that is very interesting to me because why do we have similar foods across cultures that are so far apart and widespread? Yes, it could be like the centuries of international trade could be one reason. Another thing that I find that another food item that I've discovered that is similar across multiple cultures. There is puff puff, Nigerian puff puff. And there is oli bollen, which is basically puff puff but like much larger, which is Dutch. Then there's also quark bolchen, which is kind of like puff puff but more firm and round and bigger, but not as big as Uli Bollen, and that's German. Then there's what Americans call donut holes, which is basically essentially puff puff if we're being being serious. And then I don't remember. Then there's sesame balls. I don't know which of the Asian cuisines has that, but I had it as an Asian restaurant. So it was just called an Asian restaurant. They didn't specify what kind of Asian it was, so I don't know. But there's sesame balls, which is quite similar in shape and content to puff puff, only that there's like it's a bit more savory. And I was talking to my friend who I was talking to today, who is South African, said that they have something similar. I don't remember the name, but she said that they have something similar to that, and it's also savory. And then think about bread. Every culture has a type of bread, and it's different from every other culture's bread. But at the base of it, there's flour and water mixed together with maybe oil, maybe butter, maybe sugar, maybe salt. But there is some form of bread. And I find these things so interesting and so fascinating. And I wonder how they came to be and all of those things. And something that both of us landed on in this conversation is that a lot of the quote unquote traditional way of cooking things, it's not based on some deep thing that people tie their sense of identity and purpose in life to. It's just a function of these were the resources and the tools and the methods available at the time to the people in this specific region, and this is therefore how the preparation of these ingredients together in this manner and in this approach has gone on over time, and now it's just part of the culture, which is why I don't understand why people get so upset when people remix, quote unquote remix ingredients and try to make something new out of it, because there is no, technically the reason why this thing is made this way is because one person some hundred or thousands of years ago made it in this way because these were the ingredients and the tools that they had, or maybe even by accident. Maybe they mixed something that they thought was something else together and it worked and they made it that way, and lots of people started making it that way, and then it became the entrenched way of doing it. Doesn't mean it's the only way of doing it, doesn't mean it's the best way of doing it. And I'm looking at people that always shout on people are making jollof rice in different ways. Please get over yourselves. Many cultures have a kind of stewed rice, which is basically what jollof rice is if we're keeping it a bulk. It's stew with the rice cooked inside. That's it. And there's Mexican tomato rice, there is jambalaya, there's like so many types of rice that are quite similar in how they are prepared. So it's not a big deal. And this is why I think I realized that it's probably why I love a lot of fusion food, because I like to see how people take in elements from different food cultures and merge them together to create something new. Because at the end of the day, that's what food is about. It's about sharing and love and joy. And food is just so amazing. Like, food is amazing. And I don't know why people are so, like, dead set on just this is the way it was done by my ancestors and this is the way it must always be done forever. I mean, I get it to an extent, like, oh, preserving culture, blah, blah, blah. But cultures evolve. That is what cultures do. That's literally the thing that it does, it evolves. And if there are newer ways of doing things, if there are more interesting ways of doing things or exploratory ways of doing things, why is it such a big deal? Why can we all, like, don't be like, oh, the only way to cook this thing is by doing this. No, it's not the only way. It's just the way your ancestors did it, because those were the things they had available to them at that point in time. If they had a different set of things available to them, they would have probably done it in a different way. And so maybe try doing it in a different way, explore. Maybe you actually like it. Maybe I don't know. I feel like generally as a collective, we all need to get over ourselves when it comes to these kinds of things. Also, I feel like we tell ourselves, like, we retell the history of our foods because it just makes, like, there's this special feeling it gives us. I remember reading an article in the Financial Times, which I will link to in the show notes, sometime last year, about how a lot of the things that we consider to be Italian food are not actually originally historically Italian. So, for example, pizza, which everybody immediately associates with Italy and Italian food, is actually apparently not. I was so shocked, so shocked to discover this. And according to the guy who writes the piece in the Financial Times, he's talking to this, like, Italian historian food guy or something, and the guy is talking about how, like, pizzas, what we call pizza technically, like a round-ish dough-shaped thing topped with different kinds of ingredients, has existed in the Mediterranean regions for centuries, whereas the first proper Italian pizza type thing that we call Italian pizza now actually started in New York in 1911, and it wasn't until, like, the 1940s that pizza became, like, a really big thing in, like, all of Italy or something. No, you guys should really read the article. And I find these things, like the stories we tell ourselves about food and what it means to us and our culture and our background and our history, I find all these things so interesting because some of it is just not true. Yeah, like the perpetual arguments about jollof rice, for example. What did it originate from? Food first, blah, blah, blah. The funny thing is that I don't think that Ghanaian jollof rice and Nigerian jollof rice are even prepared in the same way. Like, they're different meals. They're not the same thing. Yes, the whole concept, which is what I was saying about, like, everything is basically stewed rice. Is rice cooked in a stew sauce, and the stew is cooked in different ways, which is why there are many different varieties of that kind of rice. But anyway, that's for today. Thank you for listening. Bye. There's still over 100 episodes to go. I still need questions. I still need suggestions of who to talk to. I still need people who want to come on to talk about something to fill the form. So please do that. Thank you very much. And yeah, do like, share, subscribe if you found it interesting, insightful, and all the nice things. Bye.